Hello and welcome inside the Sports Sermon. I am Dylan Stagge here along with Jason Gandhi and Dan Majors. Today, and it is finally time, it is draft week for the NBA, so we have a big week coming up. Obviously, if you couldn't tell by the title, today we are going to be talking about our top players in this draft. We're going to be going through our big boards. We'll be going through about our top 15 roughly. We'll talk about the order we're doing this in just a bit. But if you want to see our full top 30, make sure you go and check out each of our individual articles on Twitter at the Sports Sermon, sports with a Z. Wednesday, we will have a mock draft for the first round, so stay tuned for that podcast. And then on Friday, we will have a draft reaction. Hopefully there'll be some crazy trades and just some crazy picks in the draft. So for today, we'll have our big boards and then some rumors after that. But I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Jason for the start of this order.
Yeah, so we're like Dylan said, we're going to go through our lottery selections of the big board. So it'll be our top 14 guys. The way we're going to go through it, we're going to go player by player, not number by number. But we're going to go based off of ESPN's top 100s. That way we hit everybody. If that didn't make sense, just keep listening and you'll figure it out. So, number 15 on ESPN's draft board is Miles Bridges, the small forward out of Michigan State, the sophomore that was once a lottery pick last year, came back to school. Where do you guys have him on your big board?
I have Bridges at 13. He's a guy who can do it all on both sides of the ball. He's thick, 6'7", 220, and can put the ball... He can put the ball...
5 C's.
Yeah. He can put the ball on the ground at times and get to the rim. He could use some work on his ball handling and needs to figure out his identity. I think him and Kevin Knox are very relatable in their games, but Knox has much better size and length. I'd compare him NBA-wise to Tobias Harris, though.
All right, I agree with none of that except for the player comp. I agree with you on the player comp, Tobias Harris. I don't agree with the fact of Kevin Knox, though, and partially just because I'm higher on Kevin Knox than I am on Bridges.
No, I am too.
I have Bridges coming in at 11, and I think part of the reason I'm higher on him than most is because I watched him almost every game this season because, as it's been highly documented, I'm a Michigan State fan. But I think his shooting is what's going to make him valuable, and he played a lot of 4 in crunch time situations at Michigan State under Coach Izzo. I think he's a more comfortable 3 that can be a small ball 4, but I think he doesn't need to be the number 1 option anymore if he can go to a place like Philadelphia at number 10 or the Nuggets at 14, where they don't need him to be the number 1 guy, but they need him just to score off the bench or as that wing guy. I think he could be the 3rd option of the team. I think if he goes to Philly, he could be the 3rd option of that team that makes it out of the Eastern Conference. I think he's got not a super high ceiling where he could be a top 5 player out of this draft, but I think he's similar to a guy that could just get 10, 15 points a game, 5 boards, 3 assists, and is the reason he's the X factor to a team that makes it to the finals.
Yeah, you're definitely not drafting Miles Bridges for his ceiling. I have him at number 12, but he can shoot the ball pretty solidly and has some potential to possibly, at least every once in a while, create his own shot and be a solid defender. He's not great at any one thing, though. And because of his balance is why I compare him to Draymond Green. Obviously, Draymond has some better passing skills, some better rebounding at this point, but I think Miles has the body that he can be able to develop into that type of player.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Draymond Green comparison, he'd have to get a lot bigger, like you mentioned, how he just doesn't have that. I just think he's got to get bigger, and he's got to be a better rebounder. I mean, he's not that aggressive rebounding. He's more I don't know, I think of him more, in my opinion, he's more of a 3-and-D guy that can go down to the 4, but I don't really see him being a small ball 5 by any means. He's only 6'7", or 6'6" is what ESPN has him listed as, but I think he looks more 6'7", but I don't know. I don't really see him as a bigger guy. I see him more as a wing that just has the height to be able to slide down, but doesn't have the game to slide down. Yeah. All right. This is another interesting one. I was going to ask you about this, but then looking at ESPN's boards, they have Mikal Bridges right above him. I was going to say which one do you like better, but this is a perfect segue into it. Where do you have Mikal Bridges?
I have him at 12, right above Miles at 13. Bridges was an 18-year-old coming out. If Bridges was an 18-year-old coming out, then he'd be ranked higher on this list, in my opinion. He's a prototypical 3-and-D and has a lot of potential with his physical attributes. His athleticism, along with his creating, shooting, and defensive abilities, makes him an intriguing prospect, and I think he has a lot of potential. I relate him to Robert Covington.
I also have that same player comp of Robert Covington, and I have him at 12 right below Bridges. The other Bridges, Miles. I have Miles 11, Mikhail 12. And the reason I'm lower on him, which is funny, it's the same reason, the limited ceiling. The difference for me, though, is just the spurt ability and the athleticism I think Miles has that he showed off on those poster dunks. I think that can translate into more energy and just being a more balanced player, where I see Mikhail Bridges as a definite 3-and-D prospect with no really wiggle room, where I think Bridges could translate. I mean, best case scenario maybe is a Draymond Green, like Dylan was saying, where I just don't see Mikhail Bridges being anything better than a 3-and-D prospect. With that being said, I can see him being the Rookie of the Year next year if he goes to a great fit and he has a season like Kyle Kuzma did, where he hits threes. I mean, Kuzma's terrible at defense, but he locks down on defense. I just think I have the Robert Covington comparison, and what's funny is he might be Covington's replacement in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the thing with Mikhail Bridges is, like Dan mentioned, if he was 18 years old, he would be a lot higher. But the problem is, at 18 years old, he was very bad at Villanova.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, over these past 4 years, you have to give a lot of credit to Jay Wright for developing him there. He doesn't scream sky-high potential, but I still have him at number 9 because of what he can do right now. Obviously, knock down the three. He's still, unlike a lot of players that went for 4 years, he does have that athleticism, 7'2" wingspan. So I just love Mikhail Bridges. I mean, everyone's going towards those 3-and-D guys now. The Rockets built a whole team out of them around Harden and Paul. So I love Mikhail Bridges. 3-and-D guys have a lot of value for me.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever have enough wings. I mean, right now, literally where you get value is those 3-and-D switchy wings. I just think where I get caught up is not the age. I mean, yeah, he's old. He's one of the oldest guys in the draft, but whatever, that doesn't really matter. For me, it's just more of he's such a fit guy. I don't think he'd be successful if he went to Chicago at 7. I don't think he'd be successful if he went to the Clippers at 11. I think he's very dependent on fit, where I think other guys, I think Miles Bridges would be fine anywhere and would have a better career if he went to Chicago. I think Bridges has to go in somewhere where they're already experienced, in my opinion. I just don't see him being able to do anything on a team where they looked for him to be the first or second option. He's got to be a 3-and-D guy.
Yeah, I mean, he disappeared at times during games for Villanova. But,
exactly.
I mean, he just – I think with NBA coaching, he can continue to develop that and maybe one day become a second or third option. Yeah. But I definitely agree with you.
Not to argue that,
year.
But I would take Jay Wright over probably half those NBA coaches that he had these last 4 years. But Dan, what were you saying?
I was just going to say, between the two Bridges, the big difference is their roles. And Miles Bridges, he's still got to figure out what role. And
that's why I almost think it valuable, though.
Yeah.
That's where I think that's just opinion. I think that's valuable. He doesn't have a role yet. Where you could say that's not valuable because what if he never finds a role?
Right.
He's
got to find his identity.
Exactly, and that's where I think that's valuable because he could do more than what we've seen. Do you agree with that, Dylan, or do you think that's almost a disadvantage?
I don't know. I mean, he's just not that quick or explosive, and that's my problem.
He's explosive.
He's definitely explosive. I agree with quick, though. Yeah. I agree with quick.
I mean, it's hard to think of another guy that can fill different roles like that besides Draymond Green, and that's why I think that's Miles Bridges' ceiling in this NBA.
I mean, what's funny is you look at the guys that have come out of Michigan State, you don't really see a lot of guys that have great player comps. Draymond Green, when he came out, no one really knew what he was. Jaren Jackson this year, he's the first 3-and-D big. It's just all these different things where, a lot of Michigan State guys that come out, they don't really have a person setting the precedent in front of them. They just kind of, figure it out. The only guy that really did was Denzel Valentine. He was another one of these just wings that was athletic and a scorer. But anyway, let's get into, I think, one that could be pretty highly debated. Lonnie Walker IV from Miami, Florida. Dylan?
What do you got?
All right, so I love Lonnie Walker. I have him at 10th on mine. He's risen up draft boards very quickly this offseason, and I just love him because he's so raw and has insane explosiveness right now. Obviously, he needs to be better shooting the ball and more consistent, but he just has so much potential because of the explosiveness that he plays with, and that 6'10" wingspan, it can help him become a great defensive player. And I think he looks a lot like the guy that came out last year and kind of did the same thing, rising up draft boards late, Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, My worry. So I watched 3 of his games, like his full games, and the thing that jumped off the page for me was inconsistency. He was not consistent at all. Like some games, he'd look like a lottery guaranteed top 10 pick, and then the next game I'd be like, why is this guy on the floor? Like, and I wanted to see more in the tournament when I think it was Bruce Brown got hurt or something. Like one of their star players got hurt, and Lonnie Walker was the only guy, and they couldn't even get past the first round. I forgot who they played, but they couldn't even get out of the first round. I just wanted to see more out of Lonnie Walker. I personally have him at 15. I have him just outside the lottery. I like Robert Williams more. I went between Williams and Walker. I gave the nod to Williams just because I think he fits more in the modern NBA of that 3-4. He could, not 3, 4 or 5, but that can switch back and forth. Where at Lonnie Walker, I just don't know what I have in him. He's, to me, the biggest unknown in the draft. Him and probably Sexton, but I mean, we'll get into that later. I just don't know about him, and I can't trust him. If I'm a team like the Clippers where you have 2 picks, maybe you risk it, but if I'm any other team, I'm like, I only get 1 shot in this class. I don't really want to risk it on the biggest unknown, in my opinion.
Yeah, inconsistency is definitely the key word there, and I have him at 17, so I agree with Jason.
I think the inconsistency it's definitely fair, but again, it's kind of a fit thing with a lot of these guys, obviously. Yeah. Like, you look at the Celtics, they've had so much success, and the guys that they've drafted up top compared to, like, the Kings, who can't develop a prospect at all. But if he goes to the right situation and can really just develop a jumper, that's really the only part of the game that I think is missing from him because of his potential to be so great on defense and just his explosiveness on offense.
So do you see him as a 2 or a 3?
Definitely a 2. I think he's only like 6'4", so I don't think you can really play him at the 3.
But how do you play a guy that can't shoot at the 2? That's what I'm worrying about. Is if he can't shoot, how do you play this guy at the 2? What's the name of the position? Shooting guard. I mean, I know that just sounds like stupid, but like, I mean, it is what it is. Name a 2 that can't shoot in the NBA. That's good.
I mean, jumpers, they can obviously always be developed, and we were kind of saying the same things about Donovan Mitchell last year. So
I've always been wanting to shoot down that shots can be developed. I've always been wanting to shoot that down. You can't just learn how to shoot. You would have learned how to do it the first 18 years of your life if you could just learn how to shoot. There's examples of being able to learn how to shoot, but there are much more examples of not being able to learn how to shoot. And I'm not saying like you're wrong or anything. I mean, this is something that I think we need to make clear throughout all of this. Is like we hope we're wrong. If we don't like a prospect, we hope we're wrong. We hope that they show us wrong, and they hope that they're stars. Like we don't hate any of these guys. Like personally, it's just more of like I wouldn't want them on my team. I guess is how I look at these things. I was ranking if the Lakers were picking all these spots, what would be how comfortable would I be with all these guys? Not based on fit or anything, obviously. I don't know. I think that was the big thing for me was inconsistency and how do you play a guy at the 2 that can't shoot. Oh well. Let's keep going. After him is the one that I mentioned earlier in mine, Robert Williams, power forward / center out of Texas A&M. Another guy like Miles Bridges who was talked about being a lottery pick last year, went back to college, and now might have cost himself some money. Dylan, where do you have him at?
So I'm not a big fan of Robert Williams. I had him at number 16. Okay. I think he definitely has a defined role in the NBA, being kind of a guy that stays down low. Obviously, he's not going to go step out and shoot the ball, but he's a great defender and a lob target, kind of like the Clint Capella and DeAndre Jordan type. My problem with him is, though, I feel like he just doesn't really have any potential on the offensive side. And will he ever become the defender in the NBA at that level to be a Clint Capella or DeAndre Jordan? We'll have to see. He definitely has that role, but his ceiling is just not that high for me, especially on the offensive side.
I have him at 14, and I'm a big fan of him basically because of what you said with Clint Capella. And you know how much I like Clint Capella, and I just love the role that those two play. And at Texas A&M, he was a 4, and I think he'll play more of a 5 now. And he didn't run much pick and roll there, but when he did, he excelled. And so, I don't know. I think he's a great shot blocker and can finish at the rim off of lobs. And so, I don't know. I just like him.
Yeah, I guess just I like him, and I think, Dylan, you mentioned it. I just don't know if he hits the ceiling of Clint Capella defensively. So I had DeAndre Jordan. I think DeAndre Jordan's a step down from Clint Capella defensively and offensively. Both, I think DeAndre Jordan is just like one tier down from Clint Capella.
So you think Clint Capella is a better player than DeAndre Jordan?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
So I just think Robert Williams. I think Robert Williams, though, on the flip side of that, has better shooting, like Clint Capella, where he can at least hit the mid-range, where DeAndre Jordan cannot get outside 5 feet. Where that's where I almost had the Clint Capella, but then I just looked at. I think he's not going to ever touch that Clint Capella defensive role, and so I wanted DeAndre Jordan, but really, I was just like, this guy is the definition of boom or bust. He could be a baller in this league if he figures it out, but also, like, we've seen these off-field, lazy, lackadaisical, just doesn't look like he really wants to play that hard, and if he goes to a team like, I don't know, I keep saying the Clippers, Nuggets, and Wizards, because that's who 12 through 15 is, but, like, the Wizards could really use him. I think he could be a stud on the Wizards at that 4 spot. That would be an insane fit, but if he goes to the Nuggets, where it's already a crowded front court, maybe he falls behind, gets lazy, doesn't try, and now we never hear of him again. I just think, Dylan, you hit on it earlier, these even 10 through 17 guys are so heavily dependent on fit, where if they go to the wrong team, you could never hear of them again, but if they go to a team like Donovan Mitchell, where it was such a rare situation where this guy gets to be the number one and Donovan Mitchell is the perfect fit to be a number one, then they could be the stars of this league. So Robert Williams, I think, is just the definite boom or bust, in my opinion.
Yeah, he definitely really only plays one role. So.
All right. Dylan, is there anything else you want to add to that? I know you started saying little things about Capella and all that here and there. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I mean, one last thing with Williams, though, like Jason mentioned, his hustle a little bit. The one thing to play that role that really one role that he needs to fit into, you need that hustle and drive and energy. So he's also got to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's DeAndre Jordan might be his best skill is his energy and his just, like, go get the ball and slam it in your face mentality, where I feel like Williams gets complacent and sells for mid-range.
He's a good dunker, though.
Dude, Dylan and I were watching his highlights this weekend with the Munsons when we were, like, hanging out with them. He went up and got to, like, literally the height of the top of the backboard. We were like...
Who, Williams?
Yeah, and me and Dylan just lost. We were like, oh my gosh. Like, he literally just grabbed it from, like, the freaking sky and slammed it. It was crazy. I was in complete shock. I had not seen him go up and get that. Anyway, let's keep moving. Number 11 on ESPN's big board. They have Colin Sexton, one of the most fluctuating prospects right now. Where do you have him at, Daniel?
I have him at 11, and I really like him. Very intense. He is the most intense and aggressive player in this draft. Very athletic, can finish at the rim with quickness. His defensive intensity is crazy, especially on the ball. I just think he's a great player, and he where was I going with that? He has a lot of potential because of his work ethic. Avery Johnson, his coach at Alabama, has been quoted saying, "Here's a kid we basically have to turn the lights out on the gym. He wants to live in the gym." And I don't want to pass on work ethic like that. I compare him to Eric Bledsoe, too. I think those are two guys, both of them are like 6'1", I think. And
yeah, both speedy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I have a question for you, though. I mean, just, Dylan, you can say this to me before you go. Where do you have him ranked in the point guards of this class? First, second, third? Yeah, just, like, check your big board. I'm just curious.
I think second.
I mean, he shouldn't fall below third, I don't think.
Third.
Okay, second.
I mean, it depends. Do we consider Luka Doncic or Lonnie
Oh,
Walker point
No,
guards?
I don't consider either of them point guards. I mean,
Okay,
Young.
then I have
I meant Young, Gilgeous-Alexander, and Sexton.
Okay, yeah, I have him third.
Third.
second.
I could
third,
switch. I could switch him and Gilgeous-Alexander.
I have him third. I was just curious. All right, Dylan, you can go.
Yeah, I mean, Colin Sexton this past year, he was obviously great for Alabama, but my one criticism of his game is that he played last year like he was the best player on the floor, and he was a lot of times, but is he going to try to play the same way in the NBA when he's definitely not going to be the best player on the floor, especially right away? And then what kind of role will he fill if he's not? That's my only question about him, but I do like the work ethic, his defensive potential, and his ability to get to the bucket.
Yeah, so this was a weird prospect for me. I watched a bunch of his games at Bama, and he's one of those guys I love to watch because of the energy, because of the passion. I thought the Ringer draft guy put a perfect quote on there, one of those pluses. They said he's here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and that attitude is contagious. And that just so, like, defines him. He just has such a swagger to him, which I feel like you cannot turn the TV off when he plays. But with all that being said, he's my third-ranked point guard because he seems to force it way too many times than he should, and his shot's not there. And like I said, I don't believe in this. Everyone can develop a shot because there's reasons you can't. Like, yes, Kawhi Leonard was able to, and all these different guys were, but that many guys that were, double that probably weren't. Like, I just am worried about it. My comp for him was Patrick Beverley. I think he can be an energy defensive stud where he just nitpicks everyone. I mean, if he was the vet and there was a rookie coming, I could see him do exactly what Beverley did to Lonzo, just getting in his head, getting in his face, having all of that energy. I'm just worried about his offensive game. I see him as a defensive stud where a team like the Cavs could use him 1,000% as just a guy to shore up defensively. They got enough scores, but they need someone on defense. But I have him as my 13th best prospect. So I think if the Cavs do that, they need to trade back. But I'm not high on him because I don't think he's got much offensive potential.
Yeah, I also think he's a character too, because a lot of people love him and a lot of people hate him. So he's kind of like a Draymond Green in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Draymond Green is if he's on your team, you love him. If you're playing
Right.
against him, you hate him. I think that's the same way with Patrick Beverley. It's the same way with I think that's a great comparison. I mean, I told that to Dylan game 1. I was like, I hate Patrick Beverley. He's like, I love him. I was like, he's definitely one of those guys. If he's on your team, you love him. If not, you hate him. Yeah. All right, moving on. Number 10, my favorite player that's not a Spartan in this draft, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'll take this one first just because of how much I love him. I have him coming in at number 7 and being my first overall point guard. He's just one of those guys that had a fantastic second season. We wouldn't even be talking about him if he'd had the same first half as he did second half. He'd be probably going back to school, and if not, he'd be right where Jared Vanderbilt and P.J. Washington are, barely getting drafted. But he had such a fantastic second half of the season. He's a 6'6" point guard with a 7-foot wingspan. That is just beautiful. And those lengthy point guards that can score by driving, I love watching him play. The only concern I have is his physicality. He seems to want to use some flair when he shoots and tried to make it look cute while he went up and shot, where if he just muscles in, goes up into the contact, I felt like he shied away from contact, tried to look good instead of going into contact. I think if he can do that, I wrote this in the thing that we posted. I said, Gilgeous-Alexander has the potential to be the best point guard out of this class, and although he isn't there right now, I see him doing it by the end of year 2. I think you give him 2 years, and he will be the best point guard out of the 2018 NBA draft class. He's just got so much potential with a 6'6" height and 7-foot wingspan. And he's one of those guys where I don't hate his shot. It wasn't very productive in college, but I think there is something there that you can work on. Unlike Sexton, where I think Sexton's, I don't think there's much you can add to Sexton's, where Gilgeous-Alexander, I see more potential being in that shot.
Where did you have him? You have him at 7?
7. And number 1 point guard. And my comp is a more explosive Michael Carter-Williams. Just lengthy and defensive stud that can score.
Okay, I have him at 10.
Okay,
I
like that, yeah.
He's very intriguing. I'm not sure I agree with you on the physical part. I thought he was pretty physical. I don't think he really shied away from contact much on driving to the rim.
I mean, when he tried to, driving it, you have to go into contact. But I mean, you need to get a bucket. I feel like he'd fade back instead of, using that length when you need a bucket. I felt like in crunch time situations, he was like, I'll try and shoot or I'll dish off. I just want to see that. Go get it.
And I think he's a pretty safe pick, too, because, I think he has a lot of potential, and he can play a good role if he doesn't pan out to be that great player that you think he's going to be.
Yeah, even if he's not right now, he's still.
Yeah, I think he could play a great role like a Sean Livingston on the Warriors, and that's who I compare him to.
I like that. I have more faith in his shot than that, but I think that's a good comparison as that defensive guy. Yeah.
See, I'm not as high on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as you guys. I think he has a ton of potential. He's definitely a guy with a higher ceiling, probably the highest ceiling of any point guard in this class.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I thought you were going to say the whole class. I was like, wow, but yeah, I agree with that.
Any point guard. Obviously, that 6'6" height, that 6'11" wingspan, he's probably going to be very great on defense. However, his jumper is just not that great. It looked pretty ugly to me. And then sometimes he just looked, you kind of touched on it, Jason. He just looked a little lazy and kind of slow when he was getting to the basket. Obviously, he's very successful with it because of his height and wingspan. But against NBA guys who are so quick and so ready for that, I think it might be hard for him to kind of translate to that right away.
I missed where do you have him at?
14.
And you had Sexton 13?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair.
I think they're pretty similar.
I think that's where I was trying to say. I just think Gilgeous' shot has more right now foundationally than Sexton. I think Sexton's a work in progress on offensively, where Gilgeous-Alexander has a 6'6", 7-foot wingspan to be able to develop something, even if it is a mid-range game like Sean Livingston, like you were saying.
I also think they're two totally different roles, though.
No, yeah, I just mean like they're both who pans out. Like I think it's a matter of whose potential they hit, who doesn't.
Yeah.
Let's keep it rolling. We've cracked the top 10. Another Kentuckian, Kevin Knox. What do we think?
I have him at 9. He's one of the most athletic players in the draft. At his size of 6'9" and a 7-foot wingspan, he's a great scorer that can shoot and get to the rim pretty well. I'm not sure he's totally found his identity yet, like Miles Bridges, like I said earlier. But he has a lot of potential. So.
Yeah, see, I similarly agree. I think his floor, I have him at 9. Like you said, I have him above Mikal and Miles because I almost feel like his floor is similar to what Miles and Mikal can do, be a 3-and-D prospect, where I think if he does similar to what Brandon Ingram did, where he's long, and if he can develop that driving game and he got that shot, my player comp was Brandon Ingram just because his floor is 3-and-D. If he can pop threes, he's got enough length to stop people. But if he can learn how to drive and use his body, I think he can be one heck of a player. He just needs more polish, and he's just kind of awkward.
I think he's a better shooter than Brandon Ingram, too.
Yeah, exactly, which only helps him.
Yeah, Knox is basically like a poor man's Michael Porter Jr. Like, if you like Michael Porter Jr. and he's off the board.
What if you have Kevin Knox over Michael Porter Jr.? Sleeper at MPJ, I have him at 10.
Well, in terms of game, I think you have Michael Porter Jr. lower because of the injury.
Yes, I just don't trust his injury concerns.
Okay.
We'll get into that later.
All right.
Continue.
But yeah, Kevin Knox, obviously you're going to draft him with the scoring potential, super long, and has the physical tools to become a high-level defender also. He's very smooth, but he loves to settle for the jumpers, and if he's going to take a bunch of mid-range shots like he did in college, it's hard to see where he's going to be just super efficient.
Go to Toronto. They love mid-range shots.
Yeah. You can replace DeMar DeRozan,
who might be getting traded so that the Raptors can go up and get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But we'll get into that later in the rumors section. Is that it, Dylan?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep it moving. Number 8, I think one of Dan's favorite prospects, and Trae Young.
Yeah, I have him at 7. He's not only the best shooter in the draft, but also the most fun to watch. He's a kid that can just flat out shoot the ball. Jason said earlier this year that he's the first player that Curry has really had an impact on. And he's not only a shooter, though. He has great court vision and can finish at the rim. I don't think he will be that great of a defensive player and also needs to work on taking better shots.
Yeah.
I think that will also come with a better team and having NBA players by his side.
I'm just worried about what if he goes to a team where he's the number one option and they don't have much. What if he goes to Orlando? Who's going to pick up his defense? He is horrible on defense. I mean, that's not because I don't like him. I mean, I love watching him play. Like I said, I love Steph Curry and I like watching him play. Like, they're both awesome to watch. But defensively, there are major concerns. He looks lazy. His efficiency when shooting is not great. He shoots like 3 for 35. But the 3 that go in are fantastic. Like, I'm just worried about what happens in game 67 when you're tired and you're already lazier than you were in game 25 in the college season. Now it's game 67, your team's out of it, it's the middle of March, you have no reason to play. How lazy are you going to look then?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the team that he goes to.
Do you agree with that, Dylan?
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Obviously, you're drafting him to fill up the point section of the box score, though. Like, he averaged about 30 a game at Oklahoma. He also can pass the ball with about 8 assists a game in college. And Dan said it, I think it depends on his teammates around him. If he can pass to guys who can also score the ball, it'll be a great situation for him. 3-and-D guys to surround him will be great, obviously, to pick up his defensive concerns because his size is just very bad. And, I mean, I'm going to also compare him to Steph Curry, like Dan.
I think that's the easy comparison. Like, who else? There's no one you've seen besides Steph Curry be able to shoot it from 35 feet.
I mean, you look at a guy like Trey Burke or something like that. I feel like that's his
That was just like, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Trey Burke can't shoot.
I don't know. Mine was less skilled Steph Curry. I don't think he's got the intangibles. I don't think he's got the, like, desire and the attitude, which I talked about. Steph Curry's been a fiery guy since he was in college. I don't think Trae Young has that. I don't know. To me, Trae Young comes off as a spoiled rich kid that just is good at basketball. Like, I feel like he's the AAU
you
kid.
You could say that about Curry, too.
Now, but not when he was 18. That's the difference. You have to remember when he was at Davidson. He had the biggest chip on his shoulder, and he was ready to prove everybody wrong. To me, Trae Young looks like, I'm an AAU kid that's come up my whole life. Everyone knows who I am, and I can shoot from 35 feet.
I mean, you can say that about not every prospect, but
I don't think that.
Especially the high ones. I'm just looking at the board.
Not Bagley. Bagley puts the most energy in this class, in my opinion.
I mean, guys
Sexton,
like DeAndre
sure.
Ayton. Ayton looked like he didn't care on the floor half the time.
I mean, he's getting paid $100K. I wouldn't care either.
Yeah, but I mean,
no, I know what you're saying.
Then you can say the same thing about him. You have a number one on your board.
I do love Ayton. Don't get me wrong. I was just saying, as a joke. I just think Trae Young versus Steph Curry. What's the difference? Mentality. Same thing. It's very far difference, but same sort of conversation. What's the difference between, in my opinion, LeBron and MJ? The attitude, the killer instinct. Jordan has it. I didn't see LeBron having it for that first half of his career. This is where I don't see Trae. Yeah, I mean, no. Yeah. I'm just saying, and this Trae Young, I just don't see Trae Young right now having this. Let me prove everybody wrong. Oklahoma's bad, but I want to prove everybody that we can be whatever our ceiling is. He just was like, if we lose, we lose, but I'm going to look good shooting the ball from 35 feet. That was my issue.
I honestly don't remember. What did people not like about Curry when he came out?
Too small. He was too small, and he just got hurt a lot. I mean, remember when he made that 4-year, $40 million contract, 5 years ago? People thought, why are you giving it to him? He gets hurt all the time. People just he was too small, and he wasn't durable. Yeah. And I just think Trae Young comes off cocky, which I love. Don't get me wrong, I love cockiness, but it looks like almost lazy cocky. I'm so good, I don't need to try. Do you guys see what I'm saying at all, or no? You might not agree, but do you see what I'm saying?
Kind of, but I mean, I say Curry still has
now, but not when he was 18. He's now a $200 million man. He's allowed to be cocky and arrogant now. He's won 3 chips in 4 years and has a great wife, 2 kids, and is living the dream. Trae Young's 18 and just signed with a soccer company. Don't get me started on Puma. I'm pissed. I'm so mad. But we'll get into that later also. But I don't know. I mean, I love watching Trae Young play. Like I said, I love watching Steph play. It's just show some killer instinct. I don't know. He just didn't look like he had it. And if the game was close, I was like, oh no, he has the ball. Not thank God he has the ball.
I don't think he will be on Curry's level, but
yeah.
I do think he will be a good player in this league.
Will he ever be a top 10 point guard in this league?
He definitely has the potential.
He has potential. I mean, I think all 3 of these guys do.
I'll say yes.
Yeah, I mean,
so
you're high on Young, he's high on Sexton, I'm high on Gilgeous-Alexander. That's the thing.
I'm not high on Sexton.
I'm pretty high on Sexton.
I was 13th.
I thought you liked him. I don't know. Who do you like? What point guard do you like out of this class then?
Not really.
Which one's gonna be the best point guard out of this class? 5 years from now, who's gonna be a top 10 point guard?
I mean, I have Trae Young the highest, so I guess I'll say him.
I
think they'll have the potential to though.
You have Trae Young at 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Trae Young.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to someone Zach Munson does not like. I personally like Wendell Carter Jr. I think, Dylan, are you more on the side of not liking him either?
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of what he can really do anything special. He gives you a little bit of everything. He can dribble. He has some post moves, and he has potential to shoot the ball. But really just in these modern NBA bigs, they just have so much physicality and athleticism, and I think they're kind of lacking, especially compared to those top 4 bigs that we'll get into a little bit later. I think he'll be able to find himself a role on any team, but it's hard to say. He kind of has that killer instinct like you're talking about. The ability to take over games.
I like him. Where do you have him?
I have him at 8. I think he's going to be a solid player, but...
Do you think a solid starter?
Yeah.
Okay.
But sorry, go.
Yeah, I just think he's a guy definitely overlooked at Duke with Bagley and Allen as the main storylines. He's a modern NBA big, and he can really stretch the floor with his driving ability as a 6'10 center. What he lacks in a little height, he makes up for in his 7'4.5" wingspan. And like I said, and like Dylan said, he will be a solid starter in this league for a long time, and he has more potential than just that, too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is where I keep going back and forth. I think everyone can agree 1 through 5 is a different tier than 6 through 10.
Yes, and my 6 is pretty close.
Who's your 6?
I have Michael Porter Jr.
Okay. So for me, in my big board, my 1 through 5 is in no particular order: Ayton, Bagley, Bamba, Doncic, Jackson. No, that's not my order. It's just those 5.
Yeah, I think that's
everybody's
order.
6 through 10, I think 6 through 9 with Porter Jr. being in there depending on his injury. I have Carter, Gilgeous-Alexander, Trae Young, Kevin Knox, and Michael Porter Jr. Those 5 for me are all could boom into not stars, but boom into very good players, or it could be fine being a role player. But I think Wendell Carter Jr. will be the best role player of all of them. I think I compared him not player comp, just pure the way in general as Jason Tatum of last year's class, where I think he comes in as incredibly NBA ready. I think if you went to a team with the Cavs, they got LeBron back. I think if you put LeBron, Carter Jr., and Kevin Love, that's a lot better than whatever they did this past year. I just think if you can get into a team that's NBA ready, get him to the Sixers, you get him to a team like that where they've got people around him, you put him in here, and now you let him work, I think he could be such a fantastic player. He's not going to out-jump anybody and go posterize them and get on SportsCenter, but he's going to have a quiet 20 and 10 and then have his team win 55 games is how I see him. I think he's just so valuable. I compare him to Al Horford.
I did too.
Okay.
Do you think he has good potential? Or?
I don't think he's got a high ceiling. I think his highest ceiling is Al Horford, where Al Horford was never really a superstar.
Horford's still
no, but I'm saying
star.
Now because everyone got hurt. If you got to think, if Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward play this entire year, is anyone calling Al Horford a star? No. He got a max contract because he was good in Atlanta on that good team. But I think everyone always looks at Al Horford. Everyone always looks Wendell Carter Jr.
Okay, Al Horford's a top. I don't know in the NBA. He's
player or center?
No, center.
Okay, top 10, top 15.
He's definitely top 10.
Yeah.
Okay, top 10.
Top 10.
I think Wendell Carter Jr. could be a top 10 center in this league.
Yeah,
I mean that's where I think Horford's a ceiling. But I'm saying even if
that's a good ceiling.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm saying his floor, I think still helps a championship team more than anyone else's floor of this 6 to 10 range.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep going. We're into our top 6. Dan, get your smile ready. Michael Porter Jr.
Well, basically, if you're looking for a high risk, high reward, then this is your guy. Michael Porter Jr. He would be at basically the top of my board if he didn't have health concerns. He's an extremely athletic player that can score in a lot of different ways. I keep going back and forth as to whether to put him in the top 5 with these guys, like I said earlier. But if not, he's right up there. And, I mean, I don't know. He's so athletic. I really like him. And the health concerns, yes. But, if you're looking for high risk, high reward.
But what team's looking for high risk, high reward? What teams are able to risk it in the top 8? The easiest ones are Cleveland and Philly. Because they have, but, who else? But that's 8 and 10. That's not top 5. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to say you're wrong. I'm just saying, he is such a high risk. I mean, I'm not as high on his reward as everyone else is. I'll get into that once Dylan goes. But I just mean to ask you, do you want the Mavs to get him at 5? Are you comfortable if the Mavs draft Michael Porter Jr. at 5?
I do not want the Mavs to get him.
Why not?
Well, because the top 5 is better than him.
Okay.
First of all. Second
what
of
if
all,
they trade down to 6 for some reason? They go down to 6 for some stupid reason, and now they're outside the top 5.
Who would I want the Mavs to take?
Yeah.
Either him or Wendell Carter, probably.
But see, those are two opposites. High risk, high reward, and you know what you're getting in Wendell Carter Jr. That's where it's just I don't know. That's why, I was saying, if the Lakers were picking here, I would not want to have to deal with Michael Porter Jr. because you're just never comfortable. Oh, shoot, don't get hurt, don't get hurt, don't get hurt. You know? And durability. He could play 2 minutes of one game. Go play 82. You know what I mean? 82 games.
You can't just say that, though.
I just
you can't just say every 2 minutes he plays he's going to be out for a year.
Obviously. I'm just saying in general, though, his injury concerns are not something you can just gloss over. When you miss an entire year and then you get healthy and then you have to cancel a workout due to injury concerns again, I just think there's a lot of adding up. And, let's say he's not hurt. I still have him at number 10 because I think if everything goes right, he's a great stretch 4 that can shoot the 3. I think that doesn't happen, and my major concern is he's very one-dimensional in the post. And I don't think he's going to play the 3 for many teams. So if he's playing the 4, I think he very much he's got to sweep. He doesn't have anything besides a quick back down finish. He doesn't have this sweeping hook. He doesn't have any great moves in the post. I think he can hit the 3. Like I said, if he can hit the 3 consistently and he gets on the right team, that's why I have him as 10 as a good guy that needs to be in a good fit. If he's able to just stick to the 3-point line and able to play the 3, I think he's a guy like Harrison Barnes that I compared him to just because I don't think the athleticism is still there after missing a year and a half. I'm worried about his athleticism. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he is completely healthy. I hope whoever gets him gets a steal. He also is not the smartest player. He very much lacks basketball IQ, and part of that's not playing in college. I know it's stupid.
What are you basing that off of?
What do you mean?
I
mean, when I watched him in high school. That's the only thing you can watch is when he played in high school. And you watch him play.
You watched him at Missouri in the tournament. He
was out of shape, and I don't count that as game for him. I didn't even watch his games. I watched his game. I watched the game. I forget who it was against. It was a high school game, one of his last ones there. After he already committed to Missouri, I watched one more game of his, and I just feel like he doesn't always make. I think he played Bagley. I think that was the game I watched. Yeah, I don't remember because it was on that Schmidt's scouting report video. I already watched that game. I think his pure talent's unquestionable. If he's healthy, everything comes out. He's a top 5, top 6 guy. I don't have the same confidence that he's going to do that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I think you do. And that's just where we differ is, do you trust this back? Do you trust whatever else is going wrong with him?
Yeah.
All righty. We are now into the top 5, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Tier 1.
This is where you see a lot of fluctuation or maybe no fluctuation. ESPN has Marvin Bagley III at number 5. I personally think that's low.
Yeah, that's low.
Dylan?
I have him at number 4. Obviously, he's an offensive superstar. He can get to the basket, and he has shown potential last year that he can shoot threes too. And at times, he looked just completely unstoppable. He can take over games, but the biggest thing is his defense, and whether his offensive skills will ever be able to mask that big concern on the defensive side. Kind of like Karl Anthony Towns in terms of being great on offense, but just not great at all on defense.
Are you confident in his shot like Karl Anthony Towns is? Like he shot it enough at Duke. Do you trust that? Like, do you think he is a guy that can hit the 3 in the NBA?
Yeah.
Really?
Eventually, for sure. I say his offensive versatility, especially like inside, I would compare him to Zach Randolph. Obviously, he's going to have a better shot, and on the defensive side, he's not as good. But just in terms of his moves, being a lefty kind of guy, I compare him to Zach Randolph.
Yeah, I went with Randolph, but more explosive. I personally don't trust that shot that much. I think if it's there, it's just gravy. Like I don't put him. You have him at number 4 and trust the shot, which is funny. I put him at number 2 and I don't trust the shot. I think he is the most dominant player in this league, or in this draft. Sorry, not this league. In this draft, and I think the best part is he can run the floor like a gazelle. What I wrote in the thing is he can run the floor beautifully, and like I would salivate if Lonzo Ball got to play with him. Like just those guys, those pass first point guards. If you get him on a team like that, like he is going to destroy them. And De'Aaron Fox is such a beautiful fit. Where I want to watch Sacramento play next year, or heck, even in the summer league. If I got to see De'Aaron Fox and Marvin Bagley, so many oops. And I just think his defense, like you mentioned, I mean, I wrote this in there too, is I think that's the reason that Coach K went to a definite zone. He always plays zone, but usually puts some man in there. There was no fluctuation, I think, because Bagley can't defend. And that's something that I think Sacramento is able to live with. And that's why I have him at number 2, is I think he's a perfect fit at number 2 in the draft with the Kings, because Sacramento can live with that. And he's just so dominant, but so smooth at the same time. I just love watching Bagley play. And, I mean, shout out to Zach Munson. He's the one that really got me hooked on him. I was not that high during the season. I went back and watched his tape. I watched the Duke-North Carolina game. I think it was the Virginia game. And I watched the Louisville game, I think. I watched 3 games. And after watching those, I was like, okay, I know what he's talking about. Like, I just love watching Bagley play. I think he is one of those guys that's one of my favorites, not a Spartan. I just love watching him play.
Yeah, he's so dominant. I mean, his potential is through the roof. He's one of the most athletic players in the draft, and with his size, that makes him extremely dangerous. Like you guys said, he struggles on defense with instincts, but I mean, I think he can make up for that with his athletic ability. So,
yeah. Anyone else want to comment? No. Okay. Let's move on to ESPN's number 4, Jaren Jackson Jr.
So, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is the worst of the top 5, but that's definitely not any hate whatsoever, because the top 5 is obviously where after that it kind of drops off in this draft class. I mean, Jackson's been called the first true 3-and-D big man prospect, kind of like Mo Bamba, who we'll talk about in just a little bit. He also needs to start to fill out his frame. He's only 18 years old right now, and the rebounding, he could be great too if he can grab 10 plus a game in the NBA. But the things that he's not great at is the offensive versatility. His shot is the one thing that is going to translate to the NBA to make him a true 3-and-D big man prospect. But can he really go down the post and get a bucket? Can he make shots from all over the court? Is he a good enough scorer to take over a game? I don't think so right now, but he's definitely going to have a role on any team.
Yeah, I really like him. I mean, I have him at 5, but I still really like him. I could switch back between him and the guy I have at 4, which I won't say yet. I don't want to give a spoiler. He's very athletic and can get to the rim on offense, but the main question I see is his offensive impact because he's really just a defensive-minded guy. The one thing that I see, if someone were to take Jaren Jackson and stick him in Mo Bamba's body, I think that'd be one dangerous player. That'd be crazy.
7'9" wingspan.
Yeah.
I mean, Jackson's a 7'4". It's not like it's anything
yeah.
to laugh at. I mean, yeah,
No.
but I agree. Jackson, definitely the second most guy I scouted this year. Bridges obviously number 1 because I love Miles Bridges. Probably my favorite college player ever to play. But Jackson, I scouted a bunch, and Dylan, I think, hit the nail on the head where his offensive game, it's really that shot and that mid-range game that gets all the attention. I think his post-game, he's very one-dimensional. I think Dylan said that too. I like a lot of what you're saying, but I just love the defense. I mean, I think the defense is what gets me out of bed. Like, that's the one where I'm like, I want him on my team because if you have a defensive-minded big on a championship team, that's what can win you championships. And I think he's a guy where you put him on any team, I think he's successful. Put him on the Suns, you put him on the Kings, you put him on the Hawks, you put him on the Mavericks, put him on the whoever I forgot, like Grizzlies. Like, I think any of those teams can – there's no team cannot use a defensive stud big that can hit out, like come out and pop a 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of weird, but like Dirk Nowitzki wasn't that great defensively, but had the shot. And I have Miles Turner on here, a guy that can shoot it, but I think he has better defense. I mean, I think he kind of combines Miles Turner and Clint Capella, just take out the rebounding part of that. He struggles rebounding also. I think he lacks the aggressor when it comes to rebounding. He's more focused on blocks and threes than bodying in the paint, getting a rebound, and doing whatever.
So where do you have him?
I have him at 3. I like him just below Bagley and just above who we're going to talk about next, which is Mohamed Bamba.
I have him at 3.
And you had Jackson 4?
I have Jackson at 5.
5, okay.
He's very interesting because he's just been rising up the draft boards late. And
That scares me.
I mean, yeah, but like...
I mean, Mitchell did it and was a baller. That's why it's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, and like, I don't know. It's crazy because he's so big and so
I know.
lengthy.
And he's hitting his shots.
Yeah.
He's working on his jump shot.
Yeah.
If you put that together, I mean, I think what's so nice like about him and I love the most is that I think he's just got what no one else has, and it's length. I mean, it sounds stupid because Jackson's got 7'4", DeAndre Ayton 7'5", but 7'9" is like double that almost. When you look, it's just like 7'5" to 7'9" is such a big gap where I just think, how do you get around this guy? I want to see him bulk up a little bit. He still looks a little passive and not as dominant as I'd like to see. I think if you put him and Bagley together, you've got the perfect big of all time. Like you said Jackson, I think you put Bagley and Bamba together, you got the energy and you got the defense. Like I think Bagley and Bamba is such a great team together. But yeah, I think he's definitely has the most intrigue of this draft.
Yeah, I have him at number 2. He already has the tools to be an elite rim protector with that 7-foot height and the 7'9" wingspan. But the reason why I have him at number 2 is because he has something that Ayton, Bagley, and Jackson don't have, and that's the ability to potentially put the ball on the floor and go and get himself a bucket, to be able to take the game over and to be able to step out and shoot the 3 too, as he's been trying to develop more this offseason.
Dan and I both, just like looking at each other there, we think Ayton and Bagley both have that.
They both have that ability.
Why don't you think that?
I mean, Bagley a little bit. The reason I have Bagley lower is more because of his defense.
Yeah.
But Ayton, really, I don't know if he can really create his own shot. Like, he has a great array of post moves, but He's just not that. He's just not that speedy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Bamba definitely has more speed. I'll give you that. But I think Ayton can still put the ball on the floor.
Yeah.
And still get to the rim.
Let's clarify just to make sure I'm all on the same page. So Dan, you have Bagley 2, Bamba 3, Jackson 5.
Yeah.
Which means you either have Ayton, Doncic 1, 3.
No,
Dylan, you have Bamba 2, Bagley 4, and Jackson 5. Is that right? So you both have 1 and 3 available.
No, I have 1 and 4.
You have 1 and 4. Okay. And then I've got Bagley 2, Jackson 3, Bamba 4, which gives me 1 and 5. So Dylan 1 and 3, you 1 and 4, I have 1 and 5. And now I think here comes the two headline grabbers of the draft, DeAndre Ayton and Luka Doncic. You guys can take it. They have Doncic first. You want to get into Doncic? You want to go Ayton?
Let's go Doncic.
All right, Dylan. Probably the biggest Doncic fan I know for never watching a game of him. Let's see it.
Okay. So Doncic is the best player in the draft. He has everything on the offensive side. He is 6'8". He can whip the ball across the court in an instant and has a great shot too. He has a great array of step backs and dribble moves that allow him to get open, and he has been doing this his whole life. You may say he doesn't have the explosiveness, and that's very valid. He's a white guy. What can you expect from him? But he's just insanely smooth and has everything else so that I think he'll be just a great player in this league. And you can't discount that he's been playing professional basketball for, 3 years now, I believe. And this year he's really improved himself. He's won the EuroLeague MVP, the Liga ACB MVP, the EuroLeague Championship, and is currently working on the Liga ACB Championship. Keep in mind, both of those leagues are better than college basketball.
Wait, I have a question. Have you ever name one other team in the Liga ACB? Like, no one knows what that is. I'll give you your league.
It's
Liga
Spanish.
ACB.
It's a Spanish league.
I
It's
mean,
better
who
than
cares?
college basketball.
No, I'm definitely taking college
It's
basketball.
against grown men.
So Angelo Ball should be a first-round prospect because he played against grown men. The LKL's
He
just up
was
there, bro.
far
LKL is
he
just
was-
up there.
He was
No,
far from
whatever.
the MVP
Dan,
of
go.
that league.
Dan, go.
Okay, well, I was kind of with Dylan like the first time I ever saw or
You watched his highlights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I watched his highlights. Yeah, I saw Doncic and I thought he was a great player. I see Ben Simmons in him, and Ben Simmons that can shoot. He's very intriguing and could potentially help turn a franchise around. But I have had some question marks lately because, his teams are not liking what they're seeing in him lately with I don't know. It's weird.
Like what? What do they don't like about him?
To be honest, they've said they don't like what they see in his workouts lately.
It's not a joke that he's like sliding down the draft boards. For whatever reason he is.
Yeah, and so I just think that's weird. And so if NBA teams are thinking that, then that is definitely concerning.
So my biggest issue with Doncic is just, I don't know. I think my big number one issue is just like he's weak. Like I don't trust. I wouldn't put the ball in his hands if I need a game winner. I definitely would. If you watch any defensive player that has experience on him one-on-one, when they pressure him with the ball, he turns it over time and time again. He's got to have more control with the ball. But Dylan, I want to talk to you about this, though, because you're talking about how important this EuroLeague MVP and the Liga ACB and all these different things.
I'm just saying.
So I want to look back at former EuroLeague MVPs. I got their stats, and I want to know if you would take any of these guys number one overall. Anthony Parker, his best season after MVP in the NBA, 12.5 points per game. Milos Teodosic he only had 1 year in the NBA after winning MVP, 9.5. The best player to come out of the year the best player in the NBA after being a EuroLeague MVP was AK-47, Andre Kirilenko. Sorry, I can't say his name. He's that bad. Like, this guy I don't trust the EuroLeague MVP to take over a franchise. Yes, he's a different player than all of those guys. I think that's fair. But I don't think you can just give this guy the number one because that's something that people talk about all the time is he won the EuroLeague MVP. Like, I don't care. I would take the One Shining Podcast looked this up. They looked up the G League MVPs and compared him to the EuroLeague MVPs. And besides Kirilenko, they're not that much better. Like, Kirilenko obviously beats any G League MVP like Vanderblue and all those. But, Nando De Colo, Bielitsa, Sergio Rodriguez, Milos Teodosic, and Anthony Parker are the ones who played in the NBA. Like, you're telling me you're not – yeah.
Okay,
like the EuroLeague MVP is impressive, great, but like I don't care. And the thing is, you haven't seen him play. I haven't seen him play besides one game against Marc Gasol and FIBA. Dan hasn't seen him play, and so that's my issue. Is he might look great against these guys, but you don't. Everyone looks good in highlights, and so for me to give him number one, I want to see him play. I want to see Ayton go up against Bagley. I want to see Ayton go up against this guy. Like, you saw these matchups where you see Bagley go up against Jaren Jackson the first 2 weeks of the season. Doncic hasn't played anybody that's in this draft class, and so I'm not putting – I mean, as a GM, you're putting your job on the line when you have a top 5 pick. If you miss, you will most likely get fired. That's fact. Can we agree on that? If you miss on a top 5 pick as a GM, you're getting fired, usually. Unless you're a very stable franchise, like the Spurs. They get in the top 5 for some reason. Like,
no.
I'm not totally sure. I mean,
more times than not, if you miss on a top 5 pick, you don't have a job.
It's usually multiple because the NBA...
Well, if you miss on one, you're usually missing on multiple.
That's not true.
Like, if you're going to miss on a lot of picks, or like if you're going to miss on a pick like this, where there are... Like, if you're the number 1 pick and you are the Suns, I think his name's Ryan McDonough, if he misses on this pick... I think he is definitely on the hot seat to get fired because.
But he's missed on more picks than that.
I mean, you get any GM.
Dragon Bender, Marquise Chris hasn't.
You think they're already misses? You think they're already misses? I'm giving guys 5 years before I call them misses.
So you can't fire him for 5 more years then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying if you miss on this, you're going to get fired. And if as a GM, I am not trusting a guy.
Okay, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, like. I just was so frustrated watching his game against FIBA and then watching these so-called highlights. You watch strengths and weaknesses. He cannot get around tight defenders. And I'm worried about his shot. What if his shot never translates? It's great to be able to shoot against guys that are smaller than you, but not everyone's smaller than 6'8" in the NBA. Like, there are guys that are going to be able to guard him. Ben Simmons can guard him. LeBron James, when they play each other, will probably guard him. There are guys in the NBA that are not – like, if you're the MVP, that means you're better than everyone else. Let's see what happens when you play somebody better than you, and we haven't seen it. We've seen Bagley play guys that are just as good or better than him. We've seen Ayton or Jackson and all these guys play people that are better than him. I haven't seen it from Doncic. I don't want to put my money or my job on a guy that we haven't seen play against the other guys in this draft class.
Well, first of all, like I said, the EuroLeague is better than college basketball. So he has been playing good players, not obviously huge college basketball stars. I mean, you talked about the EuroLeague MVP. First of all, none of those guys were 19 years old when they won it. And second of all, look up the past, 5 Wooden Award winners. They didn't turn out to be...
I'm doing that right now. I will go through the last Wooden year and see if you would rather take them versus these EuroLeague MVPs. All right. This is going to be fun. This is the girls. Do you care about the girls? Frank Mason. Or, who was it last year? Let me get the year. I'll go year
At 19 years old, though, that's the difference.
How old's Frank Mason? 22?
He still has the potential to become more than what those guys were at their max in the EuroLeague. That's my point.
Okay, 2016-2017, the EuroLeague MVP, Sergio Llull. Frank Mason. Who are you taking? Frank Mason. He literally got all rookie votes. Next.
How old was the
all rookie
Sergio?
Votes
yeah.
He was 28. Next, Nando Di Colo versus Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield played in the NBA for longer than 1 year. Next, Frank Kaminsky starts on the Hornets. Doug McDermott. People are valuing him in free agency. Trey Burke, Anthony Davis, Blake Griffin, Evan Turner, Jimmer Fredette. Find me 2 guys that have won the MVP in the EuroLeague that are just as good as them in the NBA. The only guy is Andre Kirilenko, however you say his name, and Anthony Parker. Anthony Parker, I think, that's a good pick. But with all this being said, you're not taking Andre Kirilenko, Anthony Parker, heck, even half those Wooden guys. You're not taking.
If they did that at 19 years old, though, that was in their primes when they won the EuroLeague MVP.
What?
I see what he's saying. So he's saying that Doncic is 19 years old, and he just won the EuroLeague MVP. When those guys won the EuroLeague MVP, they were in their prime. Doncic's not in his prime yet, so he still could have more potential.
But, okay, that's fine. So maybe he's a little better than them. But you're not taking any of those guys in the lottery. That's the thing is, even if he is better than them, I'm still not taking him that better than any of those. I might take him over Frank Mason and Trey Burke and Doug McDermott.
I would hope you'd take him over those guys.
Yeah, but that's
in your top 5 of this draft.
That's what I'm saying. You have him number 1, and that's where when you haven't watched him play, his EuroLeague MVP does not mean that much. It means enough to put him in the conversation of top 5. And don't get me wrong, I think he is very balanced. I think he could be a very good player in this league. But he is not. I am not putting him as my number 1 player because I have not, 1, seen him play, and 2, because I'm not risking on a guy that we have not seen play against the best of the best in this draft class. I'm going 1 through 60, who is the best player in this draft, and when the other 59 have played against each other in some way or another, obviously not all 59, but they've all played against each other some way or another, and this guy hasn't, I'm concerned. And I think, like Dan said, there is reason to be concerned when NBA teams are having him slip and slip and slip. The same reason we can be very excited when Bamba moves up and up and up the draft board. You can't count the up and discount the down.
Yeah.
He's slipping. There's got to be reason for that.
Yeah, he's definitely a high-risk, high-reward.
I have his player comp, Lamar Odom, but a better shooter. Just a tall guy that can kind of do it all. I would take him. I'd feel comfortable taking him at 5th, but I wouldn't take him any higher. I just wouldn't. I think everyone's safer that I have above him. Ayton, Bagley, Jackson, and Bamba. I would feel much more comfortable with my job over all 4 of them.
Yeah, I go back and forth between him and Jackson. But,
yeah.
I guess what Jason's trying to say is, what's your proof as to why you think he should be number 1?
We haven't seen him play any of these guys. You haven't seen him play at all.
I don't think that's a good reason, though. That's what I'm saying. He still played against tough competition, and I think you're discounting that he's played professional basketball for 3 years. He's been against big guys, and it's not necessarily super talent, jump out of the roof kind of talent guys. It's guys that are grown men. And obviously,
but that's a pro and a con. They're 35.
Those things are different.
Yeah.
College guys are not grown men.
Yes, and grown men are not college guys. They don't have the athleticism. They don't have to be able to stay with people, and he already can't beat people off the dribble that well. What happens when you're playing a guy that's 21 right next to you? What happens when Ben Simmons guards him? He couldn't get around a 35-year-old point guard that was smaller.
Okay,
now let's see him try to get around 21-year-old just as long.
Ben Simmons and LeBron James.
Those are the guys that you guys compared him to. Who'd you compare him to?
I would hope that they could shut down a rookie.
I'm saying who he's compared to. Ben Simmons is who Dan compared him to. So I'm using Ben Simmons versus Luka Doncic. He could not get around point guards in the EuroLeague.
You're not taking Luka Doncic for his defense. You're taking
for his offense. And he can't get around defenders that are average in the EuroLeague. Try more athletic players in the NBA. You don't have to have your point guard him. Giannis doesn't go up against Lonzo Ball and they play each other. He goes up against Brandon Ingram and Julius Randle. They don't have to go 1v1, 2v2. Every team in this league has someone that can guard Luka Doncic to an extent. My worry is, can he get that shot off and can he beat anybody off the dribble? His playmaking is unquestioned. His passing is beautiful and it's an art to watch. And I don't hate him. I think he could be a very good player. I really do not hate Luka Doncic. The difference is I hate him at number 1. I don't feel comfortable taking him number 1. I would be up every night thinking I just picked a guy that we have not seen play college basketball. I was the same way with Porzingis. I was wrong. He turned out great, and maybe Doncic will be the same way. But until I see him go up against somebody with the number 1 pick, I don't feel comfortable taking it.
Yeah, I can sleep at night taking Ayton, Bamba,
Bagley, or Jackson.
Bagley,
yes.
But I couldn't sleep at night taking
That's how I feel. And that's just where, at number 1 is where I have the issue. If you would have said 3, 4, 5, I agree. Perfect. I think even 3 or 4 of this debate. I think you can say he's probably safer than Bamba and Jackson, depending on who you talk to. Yeah. But my worry, you haven't seen him play. The EuroLeague is better teams, but not better players.
Okay, I understand.
All right.
It makes sense. But I still think Doncic is the best player. You can have your opinion if you want, but you do not have to scream about it.
All right. So, DeAndre?
The GOAT.
Yeah.
No, I have him as my number 1, obviously. Has the potential to be one of the best players in the league at some point in his career. He's a freak of nature, and physically he reminds me of Joel Embiid, but not really the type of play.
Yeah.
He can rebound very well, especially on offense. One of the only few question marks is his pick-and-roll defense, but, I think he should be fine. He could be a once-in-a-decade kind of player, in my opinion, and I compare him to Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah, I really liked his mobility. I think he can switch on to guards if he needs to, and I was really impressed by that. I compare him to Patrick Ewing. Just a big body, can dominate the paint. And he has what Ewing didn't. He can shoot. Even if it's just mid-range. He shot threes in college when he probably shouldn't have. He settled for things, and he doesn't have that domination trait that Bagley has. But I think he's pretty mobile for a 7-footer where, like, who was it? Horford. Horford switched on to George Hill and locked him up in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think Ayton in a few years has that potential to be able to switch on to guards and be fine. And I thought that was very impressive watching him in Arizona, being able to guard guys like Aaron Holiday or D'Anthony Melton wasn't there, but like guys at USC and not scrub McGee. Like he could guard Pac-12 guards and hang with him for a little bit when he got switched on to him. I was really impressed with Ayton. Obviously his motor wasn't there, but like I said, you're getting paid $100K. My motor wouldn't be there either.
All right, so I have DeAndre Ayton at number 3, and it's not because he's not an absolute physical beast. And if this was 5 or 6 years ago, DeAndre Ayton would be number 1 on my big board. But times have changed on the NBA, and like guys like Ayton, they aren't the future of the NBA. He's a traditional center, and the last time a traditional center won a Finals MVP, 2005. And if I'm taking a guy number 1 overall, I want a guy who has the potential to be the best player on a championship team. The last time a traditional center was even a top 4 player on a championship team, 2014 with Tim Duncan. Ayton can bully guys in the paint. He is absolutely just a physical beast, but the future of the NBA is more speedy, guys that can shoot the 3 better at the big man position. But
so who do you compare him to?
I compare him to Shaq. I think he's a physical beast just like Shaq. But, I mean, even you question how would Shaq fit into the NBA nowadays when you're trying to construct a young roster.
I mean, I think he'd be solid, but I mean...
I still think he's going to be solid. But, I mean...
I think you're discounting 34% from 3. Yeah, that's not nothing. He can shoot the ball. And you can name me the top 5 centers. Like, name them. Most of them can shoot. And most of them have a dominant trait to them. Cousins, Embiid, Jokic is up there.
I could compare him to Cousins, too.
Yeah, I mean, I just typed in top 5 centers. Jokic, Embiid, Horford can shoot. Karl-Anthony Towns, LaMarcus Aldridge, Kevin Love. Rudy Gobert is number 8. He's the first guy that really cannot shoot. But the thing is, Ayton can shoot. I don't think he's a traditional center. Where I disagree with you is I think Bagley's more of a traditional center. I trust Ayton's shot over Bagley's. I wasn't as like you. I don't really impressed. I wasn't impressed with Bagley's shot. I thought it was very inconsistent. Where like Ayton shot 34%, and he took an attempt per game. That's a good amount for a center. Like you don't want him shooting more than 1 or 2 attempts. Shooting 34% is not bad.
Yeah,
and
so can still stretch the defense.
I mean, he shot 73% from the free throw line. Usually, free throw is about if it'll translate to the NBA free throw versus 3-point line. And I mean, even if he can't shoot the 3, he's got a mid-range game, and I think that's better than Shaq ever had. And I think he's Ewing, but with a jump shot.
I also think he can put the ball on the floor, like I said.
Yeah, and like I said, defensively, I think he's versatile also. He can guard 2 through 5.
I mean, yeah, I think he's a great center. That's why I have him at number 3. But it's hard for me to take him at number 1 because you don't see teams building around these kind of guys anymore. I mean,
I know what you're saying. I think that's fair. But, like, if the Warriors dynasty didn't happen, we wouldn't be saying that. But, like, also it did.
But it did happen. And
I don't know.
That's the future of the NBA.
I don't know.
So,
I still would trust Ayton.
So, basically, you're saying you think that there's, like, a lot of good centers out there that you don't need to take Ayton here, and there's a lot of good centers like him that you don't kind of like that.
Like what he's saying is like center position is not that valuable. So like why take him? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And so Luka, he's more of a like different kind of guy. He's you know what I mean. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
so you value Luka Doncic over any of the other centers because they fit more of the modern NBA, and you don't trust centers in the modern NBA.
I think that's part of it, especially for DeAndre Ayton. Like you look at Mo Bamba and Jaren Jackson, and those are kind of the guys who can more step out and be that rim protector, the 2 things that you need the most. But you look at DeAndre Ayton's skills, one of his best things is backing guys down, bullying them, and getting to the basket. And, I mean, it's just hard for me to say that it's a huge need for a team in
See,
the
I
NBA.
I
think
feel like
he's-
that's more Bagley than Ayton. I don't think Ayton as much of that bully ball down low is like I never saw that.
I think he's a more complete player than what you're giving.
That's
him.
what I think. I think Bagley is more of what you're describing, where he's just
But I'm talking about his special skills, the skills that make you want to take him number 1 overall. I'm still saying he's a great player. That's why I have him.
no,
at
yeah. I
number
don't think
3.
you're saying he's terrible.
No,
It's like I was
no,
saying with
we-
Doncic. Like obviously, I didn't think he's terrible. You don't think this guy's terrible. Like I get that. I'm just saying like I don't think he is a traditional center. I guess is where I disagree. I think he's got more than just a back down hook shot or whatever you want to call it. So
I can see what you're saying. Though.
Yeah.
So
well, if you made it through the hour and 10 minutes, we just took you through this big board. I appreciate you guys. We're going to do some rumors, like Dylan said. Check out them on the WordPress. We got more explanation than we just gave there for the first 14, 15 through 30. Before we get out of the big boards, what's one surprise people should look at through the 15 through 30 range on your big board?
Gary Trent Jr.
What about him?
I just think
You
can
have
shoot
him in
the
there?
ball. Yeah, I have him like 22, I think.
Okay.
A lot of people don't have him in their top 30.
I do not.
And, I mean, I think he's a guy, he can shoot the ball, he can play a role on your team. So, I don't know. I just really like him.
I have Chandler Hutchison, the guy out of Boise State, at number 18. He's just such an interesting scorer. Like he's get to the bucket at will. He has the potential to be a great scoring forward in the NBA, I think.
Mine is the opposite of that. I don't have Chandler Hutchison in mine. I took more shooting guards in my top 30, especially at the bottom half, that 25 through 30 range. I have like 4 twos. I did not have Hutchison in there. In my other one, I have 4 straight white guys from 18 to 21. So those are my 2 surprises to definitely look out for. Huerter, DiVincenzo, Grayson Allen, Musa.
DiVincenzo,
I love Grayson Allen. I love Grayson Allen. That
Really?
dude has some freaking swagger to him. And I want the Lakers to take him. Oh, put Lakers.
Everyone hates him.
I know, but he's got that swagger
you're
and
the
that,
type of
and
guy
he's got that.
love people
He's got that
doing
fu. I'm gonna go score, and now, I don't know. I just love him, and when he worked out for the Lakers, I was like, I want this guy to be a Laker. I don't know. I just love it. Dylan, you love DiVincenzo, right?
I
Yeah.
do too.
Yeah.
I have him at 21. I think Dan has him even higher than me.
I have him at 15. I almost put him in my top 14.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's never going to be the number 1 option on a team, but
Dylan, one thing
Coming
I
off
was
the
looking
bench.
at yours right when it came out earlier today. You have Wagner in your top 30.
yeah, I do like Wagner.
Yeah, that was
Oh.
impressive. I just want to hear why. I was
Tough
curious.
Yeah, I mean, he's shown in the tournament last year that he can take over a game. He can step out and shoot the ball. He just does a lot of
Yeah.
good things. Obviously, he's not the most physically dominating, talented guy in this draft, but just
Yeah.
those abilities.
You
that
didn't
he's
have
shown.
Kata Bates D up, right? I did. Did you,
Really?
Dan?
I have him at 20.
Did you?
I'm
I was
not-
just curious.
I'm not high on him. I mean, he's just he just seems like too short to.
He's so different. I
Yeah,
guess.
it's
I don't
just
know.
weird. I think it's hard
He's
for him
weird.
to find a role. Obviously, he was great in college where the guys are shorter and smaller, but in the NBA,
Yeah.
I think it'll be tougher for him.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some rumors. We've got 2.5 rumors. One kind of goes off the other. Real fast, let's get into them, though. So first, I hinted at it when we talked about Trae Young. DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley, Trae Young, Zaire Smith, and more have signed shoe deals with Puma. What is happening with Puma?
I would say that some guys are just trying to become the face of a brand, kind of like what Klay Thompson did with where's he at?
Some China brand.
I forget what it is. Yeah,
And D-Wade with Ling Yang or whatever
yeah,
his
they're all
brand
trying to
is.
become a face of a brand, and I think that's why.
I took it more from the Puma approach. Wait, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I took more with the Puma approach. Like, they must be dropping major bags. Like, they just have to be giving out so
Oh,
much
yeah.
cash.
No
Like, you're
doubt.
telling me Ayton, Bagley, and Trae Young especially could not have gotten deals with Adidas, Nike, Under Armour? Like, Puma. I don't know. Like, cash is hard to turn down. It's like, Ayton couldn't do it the first time. He's not doing it the second time. He got cash from Arizona, and he got cash from Puma. Like,
I would not wear Puma.
I just,
dude.
like, I mean, they're making, now that they got all 3, it's kind of like, sweet. Like, let's see what they got. I mean, I wasn't old enough to care about the shoe market then, but Curry, when he signed with Under Armour, people were probably like, why? Like, there was
that's better than
no,
Puma.
yeah, I
Yes.
know, but I'm just saying, like, no, but there was no notable shoe guy in Under Armour, so maybe this is what this is
Right.
going to be. Maybe this draft class is, I don't know. I just think it's weird. Like, now we've seen 2 years in a row. We had Big Baller Brand in 2017, 2018 we have Puma. Like, what's 2019? Is a Ling Yang, D Wade come back? Like, I don't know. I just think it's interesting that, like, we're not seeing those guys, the top guys of the draft, going to the Nike, Adidas, Like, some guys are venturing out. I don't know. I think it's interesting. Something to keep an eye on.
I also don't like it, too.
I mean, I'm just surprised that
Puma's a bum.
Puma's willing to spend the cash. Didn't they hire Jay-Z as, like, the president
Yeah,
of
he's
Puma
the president,
basketball?
and Walt Frazier, like, released some shoes today or something.
Yeah,
they're going all in,
They're trying to bring this basketball thing back, but obviously those guys are going wherever the cash is. Like, I mean, if Puma was doubling your offer from Nike, would you not take Puma?
Puma's such a bum, though. Like, I just... like, if
You're
I was
talking about millions of dollars, though.
If you
already
know
got
you're
it.
already getting that with if you get in the top 10, you're still getting.
I mean, I
millions
think
of dollars.
I think
You
it's
could
easy.
still have billions of
I think
more
it's
dollars.
easy for me to say no because I'm not in that situation.
Right.
But I feel like if I'm getting a $2 million deal versus a $4 million deal, I'm not going to say no to $4 million to wear a stupid tiger on or Puma on my chest. I mean, I think it's dumb personally, but also Cam Lindley's a Puma, and gotta love Cam Lindley, Garen Catholic alum. So maybe Puma's making a comeback. He's a soccer player, Dan, from Garen, that's on the Orlando MLS team.
Okay.
So shout out him. But yeah, I mean, Puma just like they're not a basketball company. Like
They're bringing it back.
yeah, that's
I'm on the Puma bandwagon now.
Are you actually?
No.
Buy some Puma shoes, Dylan.
Buy
Buy some
Puma-
Bagley ones.
Yeah.
Buy Bagley ones. All right.
Yes.
Kawhi Leonard
If they
wants.
sign Luka Doncic, maybe.
Oh.
He'll sign to some Slovenian shoe company. Him and Porzingis next year will team up, make a Slovenian shoe company. Kawhi Leonard wants out of San Antonio. Preferred destination is Los Angeles, specifically the Lakers. Came out Friday. What do we think?
I mean, this could be huge, as that would also help in getting LeBron there. I think the Lakers are going to look a lot different next year, whether they get LeBron, Kawhi, Chris Paul, or all of them.
We get Chris Paul and LeBron.
It's going to
James.
be a weird offseason.
We say this every year about the Lakers. Obviously, it's looking a lot more likely this year. But in terms of Kawhi Leonard, I don't see why, unless they're willing to give up Brandon Ingram. That's the one guy I think the Spurs might be interested in. But besides that,
Lonzo Ball is like the epitome of the Spurs. Like that is literally what a
you-
Spur is. But the thing is, that's what's
His
interesting
father,
is he is like the
Greg
perfect
Popovich,
Spur.
do not
like Lonzo Ball,
match well.
his passing and selfless attitude is like what Spurs are. But then like LeVar Ball is like the complete opposite. It's just like funny. Like
That'd be weird.
you know what I
That
mean?
would
Because
be
like he's the
interesting.
perfect Spur, and LeVar is the opposite of a Spur. Like
I
it's
just
just
want to
funny.
know what LeVar's going to think when Lonzo's not on the Lakers.
He's not getting
anymore.
traded. I think that's a baloney. He's not getting traded.
What if that happened? What do you think LeVar does?
I mean, he's not. He can't do anything.
I
I think he
understand
just
that,
gets
but he's
like
gonna be
he probably says
upset.
something stupid and like
Yeah, he's
whatever.
gonna
I mean,
be-
LeVar's LeVar. Like you can't control him. Like whatever. I mean, I just hope the Spurs trade him to like Charlotte, Orlando, Atlanta, somewhere stupid. He's pissed and comes out to the Lakers not having to give up anything. I hope he just comes out here after a year. I don't want to trade for him. I know it sounds dumb because you're wasting a year of LeBron. I hope LeBron comes over, signs a 3-year deal. Him and PG this year. Get Kawhi next year. Champs. Real fast before we end, talk about some Clippers. The Clippers, they could give up more if they wanted to. They probably have some better assets unless the Lakers want to give up their stars. They have been public, or at least it's been reported, that they would be willing to give up Tobias Harris and the 12th or 13th pick. I personally don't care. The Spurs are stupid if they do it. I don't think it's smart. Dylan, you're the Clippers fan. What do you think?
Obviously, if you're the Clippers, you are willing to give up both of those picks.
Both?
But, yeah,
Okay.
in a heartbeat. The guy that you want to keep, though, is Tobias Harris. If you can, you got to do whatever you can to try and make a trade around that, but it's Kawhi. So
Yeah.
I think.
But you think it's like almost too much, though?
I mean, that.
I
think
thought it was like nothing.
I think it's a fair deal.
Tobias and 12?
Tobias played very good for the Clippers this year when he came over in the Blake Griffin trade. Like his stats were on par with what Griffin did before he left, and so yeah, if that's what it takes to do it, I'm definitely down. But you got to try to keep Tobias though.
Yeah, I mean he's really only like piece in the Clippers. Is
He's
Tobias.
the best player.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's like your only piece. But I don't know. I mean, I think I don't. As a Spur, I'd be like Tobias in the 12th pick I got for a top 5 player.
And
Like
the 13th
But also,
pick.
I mean, the
no, it's 12th
That's
or
two-
13th. It's 12th or 13th.
They're giving up both. If
That's
Kawhi
not what the
wants to
report
come.
was. It said 12th or 13th.
they're giving up both if Kawhi wants to come.
No, that's not what they said. But like, I mean, like, I just like if I'm the Celtics, I'm like, okay, I'll give you next year's first rounder and not Boban, but like Ante Zizic again. Like, anything's better. Like, I think if you give them a better lottery pick that they don't need, and you can get Kawhi Leonard, like, 12th and 13th, 12th or 13th, like, one of them's And Tobias Harris is, like, a better than average 4, but he's not, like, a star or anything. Like, he's fine.
I also don't think the Clippers really need Kawhi.
Yeah, what's he going to do? Is he going to waste his
the
year there? Like, he's not going to take him, like, he's not title contending. Just kind of, like...
I guess you could get him
and then do something.
Trade him for
That'd be so
something.
funny. I mean, you have to wait 60 days. That'd be funny if you get this guy, flip him to, like, Boston and get that first round pick. I mean, that wouldn't actually happen, but it'd be kind of sweet. Would you be down for that? I mean, you don't want Kawhi to sit there and be a 45-win team, get bounced out in the first round, then, wow, that was fun. Do that for 5 more years.
I mean, you could, I mean, you need a star.
You need more than one. You can't do anything with one. Now, in today's NBA, you can't do anything with one star.
Yeah, but it's better than having 0.
But 12 and 13 could be 2.
Facts.
But
Facts! Let's go! No, I'm just kidding. I mean, obviously, the odds are against you to get 2 stars. 13th is Donovan Mitchell. Dan, find the best 12th pick ever. No, I'm just kidding. I think you do it. I don't know what's it do. It just takes you back to mediocrity. You know what I mean?
I mean, Kawhi is...
Like, would you rather have the 12th pick again, or would you rather be the 18th pick and get bounced out in the first round? I'm asking. You're the Clipper fan. Like, I don't care.
I mean, it's hard to... If you're at the 12th pick, no matter how many 12th picks you get, it's going to be hard to get a star from that. So, I mean, the Clippers they have a lot of assets. Obviously, 2 lottery picks. Tobias Harris is a name you can throw out there. They're in the star-finding business right now. And Kawhi is available, so you got to try to go get him.
But, like, I understand that, but my question is just, like, so you get Kawhi, right? So now you say next year. Like, would you rather have Kawhi and, like, a late teens, early 20s pick? Because like, we all agree that they're not going to do anything in the playoffs if they get Kawhi. Kawhi by himself is not going to do anything in the West, right?
I mean, like, I think they get a 4th or 5th seed maybe if they get a couple more pieces around him. Like the Jazz got a 5 seed this year.
LeBron wasn't in the West. That bumps everybody in. Like, if LeBron comes to the Lakers, which seems like it's going to happen, like, obviously, like, I don't know.
I would
like,
say the Jazz would be better than a Kawhi-led Spurs.
Yeah, I would take Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert.
Kawhi and DeAndre?
Do you have cap for DeAndre if you get Kawhi?
Yeah, I mean, you'd also have...
You have to get rid of Austin Rivers, right?
No, I mean, the biggest guy's Danilo.
Yeah, you'd have to get rid of him, and the Spurs aren't going to take him on.
I mean, there are ways to keep both. I don't think that's a huge...
Would you take Kawhi and DeAndre or Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert? But the Jazz are deeper. Joe Ingles, Ricky Rubio.
I mean, the Clippers have a lot of pieces, too. Patrick Beverly, Lou Williams.
I forgot about Patrick Beverly. Friday's
I would take Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert because they're younger.
But, like, yeah.
And
I don't know.
You're not going to do anything.
I think
with
it's
Kawhi
interesting.
And
I just feel like Kawhi and DeAndre Jordan's just like, get a 6 seed. Lose to the Lakers or the Warriors or the Rockets. All right, or the 19th pick. We draft an international guy that's going to go play overseas. Or the I gotta lie, I feel like you guys did this with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. You did this already. You were already...
Kawhi is a better player than either Chris Paul or...
But not combined.
Blake Griffin was.
Not combined.
But that it's still 1 star closer than you were before.
All right.
That's all I'm saying.
All right, so that'll do it for today's episode. Obviously got a little testy. You can be sure Wednesday is going to be that much better. We're going to have, as of now, 4 guarantees, 5 hopefuls, all on the podcast making picks. It should be us 3 and Zach. Michael said he's in. Dan's a question mark, though. So either way, we're going to have at least 4, hopefully 5 guys all drafting. And we'll give you our mock draft. So make sure you turn into that. You know where to find the show. Periscope, SoundCloud, iTunes, hopefully Spotify soon. Keep checking. We all are. Follow us on Twitter at The Sports Sermon. And go check out our big boards that were just posted at 4, 5, 6, and 7 tonight. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys Wednesday. Deuces.